Welcome to the Better Outcomes podcast, where we discuss all things leadership, sales, and communication in Australian business. At Better Outcomes Training, we provide world-class training solutions for businesses who want to arm their teams with cutting-edge skills to lead better, sell better, and enjoy more success, purpose, and profit from the work they do. For a full breakdown of all the courses we offer, visit www.better-outcomes.com.au. There's also a link in the description. Now, on to today's podcast. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Outcomes Training Podcast. My name's Craig. I'm here with Paul Harrison. Paulie, how are you?
Absolutely electrifying, my brother. It's every day above ground is a good day. The sun's out. I got a good walk in this morning. Yes, everything's turning up Paul Harrison right now, mate.
Turning up Paul Harrison, right? Lovely. It is a cracking day outside. Yeah. I managed to nearly finish off my long weekend project of building a set of gates for my long-suffering darling wife. And, God, it's so easy to forget how to be a carpenter, eh? It's so simple. Started on Saturday and started thinking about what I needed to do and just blank. Couldn't think about it. It's been too long, Paulie.
Wow.
It's been too long. I got it done. Came up looking all right too. So, how's your week been? Busy one just gone, another one coming up?
Last week, what was last week? Yeah, last week was pretty hectic. Did a fair amount of virtual delivery. This week is a little bit quieter. Got a time management workshop tomorrow, which is awesome. People from all over the country as well, which is great. Getting a lot of work with people from Fiji at the moment, which is interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, no, that's all good.
Maybe we could go there. Wangle us a business trip. What do you reckon?
We can bring the training to you, baby.
Yeah, that's the one. Good thinking.
Yeah, they got good fishing in Fiji apparently, and nice and relaxing environments there. So yeah, we can look into that. And I need to smash it out of the park for them first. And then next week is a massive one. 4 days of facilitation, 4 days of training, across maybe 8 different industries. So people representing different firms. And also got an inquiry in today from New Zealand, from Aotearoa. So that is with regards to training some sales leaders, which is fantastic. So
excellent.
They've done real well, and they want to sort of step it up a little bit. So we're having a chat, we're having a conversation.
Wow, busy man. Good to see it's charging along.
Yeah.
Now today, we're going to talk about how to get promoted.
Mm.
We're going to work out some strategic approaches.
Strategic, huh?
Strategic approaches to make yourself more valuable in your workplace.
Yeah.
To the people who matter. And even it's going to be skills that you can use for the rest of your life as well, going forward.
Absolutely.
Everything from, communication skills and time management skills right through to the value you bring to the table and quite a few others. So getting promoted, Paulie, I guess it's everyone's goal to get promoted when they start working, or the goal, or maybe they set their sights on a better job or a different industry or something. So when we talk about getting promoted, what are we thinking about?
Because I think you just you said there that everybody wants to get promoted. I think everybody wants to get more money. I think that's a big one.
Point. Yes.
I think people wouldn't say no to more money, I think, most of the time. And it's interesting because very often I get people who approach me and want to discuss things on a one-to-one basis with regards to them going out and wanting to apply for, a more senior job within their role, or they, want to take on new challenges and stuff like that. And it's very often my question is why do you want to do that? Put money aside, because money, yes, it's not the ultimate motivator, but certainly is a motivator. But why do you want to do it? And I think some people, they want the recognition, which you can absolutely understand. I think sometimes people want to take on new challenges. I think the money is an aspect there as well. But what I need to get people to realize as well is that with that promotion, with that new job, there is going to be more things expected of you. And I think that the big challenge that I see very often is people go from being very good, and we've spoken about this before, very good in their particular role, and they're a subject matter expert in what they do. Then they move into a promoted role, especially if it's something like a leadership position. Now the dynamic changes, because now they have to deal with people. And when I say with people, it's a very different dynamic if you're dealing with a client on a day-to-day basis versus if you are dealing with a colleague or co-worker that you have to, that you build a relationship with over the longer term. And that's a very, very different dynamic. I think certainly some of the challenges I've had with regards to promotions and moving into leadership positions is one of the things that you got to realize is not everybody is going to have the same motivating factors as you, which is a logical thing that we say a lot of the time. But, some people are not going to be in at 7:30 and leave at 8:30 at night, and that's a big challenge. I think often you get very high performers who are then put into leadership roles. And the challenge can be, well, I expect everybody to work as hard as me. Particularly, I've got to tell you this, I've seen this particularly in the entrepreneurial world. So you go and work for an entrepreneur, there's going to be a very high level of expectation most of the time, particularly if you're reporting into that entrepreneur, of your level of commitment, your level of work as well.
Yeah, I agree. Some of those, sometimes in a smaller business, bosses can be very demanding.
Yeah.
Only because they've been the one who's done your role before.
Yeah.
And they know how to do it. They know what's expected or what they did and what they had to do to exceed. And that's the expectation they put on you. And sometimes it's overwhelming. It can be crippling.
Yeah.
So, I agree with that. I especially agree with the money part. I like that idea. That's a good idea. Promotion. But like you said, motivation, always not about money. So how do we start to climb that tree? How do we start to get what kind of skills do we need to put in place to be looked at as promotion material? I think you hit the nail on the head with communication. I think that's a big one. Apart from the fact that you've got to be able to communicate your ideas, your goals, what you want to do to your boss, you've also, when you get into that, when you take that step, like you said, you're going from maybe sitting in an office talking with a couple of colleagues to then interacting with clients and maybe leading a team as well. So you've got to level up with your communication skills, yeah?
Okay, so Cuz, I would agree with that, but let's get real specific here, because very often I'll ask the question, what makes a good leader? And when I'm doing leadership training or, any of these types of trainings, they'll come up with 5 characteristics, and one of them very often is being a great communicator. But here's my question to you. Think about the context you've just set. What are the specifics of being able to communicate? Because, you think about it, people are in business, they can speak the language, they can communicate. But what is the difference, in your opinion, between what are people that communicate really well? What are they able to do that other people who are not great communicators, but still speak the language and communicate and get their point across, or, they can answer, do you want coffee or tea, that type of thing. What is those high-performing communicators doing that the people who are underperforming or not performing as well are not doing when it comes to communication? I'm putting you on the spot now, but what do you reckon?
You always put me on the spot. I put myself on the spot.
That's because I know that's where brilliance comes from, my man.
The two main things that jump to mind would be the fact that the person who's a very good communicator tends to see the world from the other person's point of view, and also they know what value they bring to the table. So that brings confidence as well. Yeah. It brings you're bringing your expertise into that as well, which gives you a bit of a relaxed nature, and you're able to engage on a level with them where you want the better outcome for them. That's what I would be thinking about in terms of being a good communicator.
Yeah. Okay. So if we can go a little bit deeper in there, I think that a big aspect is real ability to be able to influence and persuade. If you cannot influence and persuade, communication becomes massively frustrating. Because why do you communicate? I mean, other than giving instruction or certain things, supporting somebody to get an outcome, a lot of the time leadership positions or people who've been promoted are trying to influence and persuade. And I've got to tell you this, Cuz, I think that influence and persuasion in business is done absolutely terribly. When I'm teaching a beginner's influencing and persuading class or a advanced influence and persuasion, there are a lot of people who come into those classes, particularly the first one, and they think there's only one way of being able to influence and persuade, which is legitimate authority. You're my boss. You can therefore legitimately influence and persuade me in what I do. Now, you'll know, because you've been on training, we've done training together where we actually break all of that down. It's like, how do you actually do it and what have you? But, even if you look at Cialdini's work around influence and persuasion, he originally had 6 pillars of influence and persuasion, of which authority is one. Okay, there's liking, there is law of reciprocity, there is consensus and commitment. There are a few others as well. Scarcity, I think, is another one. And recently he's added a new one, unity, which is sharing of values and beliefs, and therefore we're going to be influenced more by our people who have those same values and belief systems. Thing is the vast majority of people battle to influence and persuade. They really, really, really do. And I'll tell you, the amount of frustration I see comes from that absolutely breaks my heart, really, because it's like, you've got such a great point to get across there, but unless you can actually influence and persuade, it's very, very, very difficult to get that point across. So I think the aspect of confidence is going to be huge, but the ability to influence and persuade is through the roof. Also, I think here, from a promotion point of view, particularly if we're talking about a promotion into leadership, is the ability to inspire other people. If you can inspire other people, I think that's an absolute game changer. So if somebody said to me, what 2 skills do I need to really do well in business, I would say, I think being able to speak publicly is important. I think the second thing is being able to sell. And when I say the word sell, folks, what I'm talking about is including things like influence and persuasion, because often, you might have a few people who listen to this who don't like the word selling. Think of it more as advanced influence and persuasion, because if you can do that, then effectively, I think that those are 2 great skills to have. I think other structures around critical thinking, problem solving can all be stuff that can be taught very, very, very simply. Critical thinking, problem solving is a lot of models and breakdowns and frameworks to be able to do that. But those 2 things, I think being able to speak on a one-to-many basis is brutal, is lethal. And secondly, the ability to sell or influence and persuade at a high level, truthfully, honestly, and ethically, I think is absolutely key when it comes to world-class communication. That would incorporate things like inspiring people to move forward as well.
I agree. It also, I guess, it would help with teaching and coaching as well when you move on to being a leader as well, and managing people too, like being able to teach someone the role that you did or the skill that you have, so that then you can delegate that to them and move on to something else. So influence persuasion would be, and good communication skills obviously would be very important there.
Absolutely. And I love what you've just said there about coaching, because I think that if we want to look at it and define a coach, again, these are commonly used words, can have different meanings to different people based on different past experiences. But a coach is somebody who can ask you world-class questions and hold you to account, in my estimation of it. And I think that the reason that's so powerful is because they can ask those great questions, and not just to inspire people to come up with the answers, to get them to move forward, but ultimately, help them be more committed to the outcome. And I think that you evoke a lot of that. Discovery is way more powerful than disclosure stuff that we're always speaking about as well. But certainly the coaching from a leadership point of view, very powerful, but also coaching style questions using pre-frames and things like that. A lot of the stuff that we speak about, very powerful when it comes to influencing and persuading other people, rapport building, all of this good stuff as well.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn when you move up into being a leader, when you move up off whatever role it is, and maybe you're in charge of people. There's also the added difficulty, I guess you could say, of having difficult conversations with people who are your peers, and learning to deal with stuff like that as well. But lots of skills to be learned there in the communication world.
Absolutely.
Also, communication, it helps. It's not something I'm good at, but it helps to be a good advocate for yourself in terms of what you're doing and the job, what you have done, what you can do, and what you want to do. I think that plays a big part in showing people where you want to go and what you want to do. So being a good communicator helps you with that. So if you're just the quiet one who doesn't speak up, doesn't tell the boss about any of your ideas, or doesn't tell them what you've done or what you can do, how are they going to know? Bosses are busy people. They're not. We always talk about making sure you know your team and getting along with them, but a lot of people don't have the time to do that. They don't realize that you've got these certain skills, and unless you've got the confidence and the communication skills to actually tell your boss or other people about it, how are they ever going to know? How are they going to know what ideas you've got? Yeah.
Wow, I really like that, cuz I really like that term you just used as far as advocating for yourself. How would somebody go out and do that? What do you think they would need to do? What do you think the thing is that people are missing in advocating for themselves? Because I really, really like that term. Really like that way of thinking.
It just comes from what you've taught me about seeing the value that you bring to the table, the understanding what you can do and what you can't do, and the special skills that you've got that nobody else has. That common knowledge we all think we have, but it's not that common. So if you sit there and think, oh, everyone knows about this, nothing gets done and nothing changes, and you don't say anything,
yeah,
you're missing a big opportunity. So being able to express that, and I don't mean big noting yourself and always talking about how good you are and what you've done. It's just a simple case of, hey boss, I've knocked this out. I've got a spare 2 or 3 hours of the day. Is there anything else you can have me do?
Yes.
Little things like that. I mean, if I've got, if you've ever managed people or teams and someone unexpectedly comes up to you and says, hey, listen, Cuzzy, I knocked out those door frames. I've got an extra 3 hours. What can I take off your hands? What can I, and you're, whoa, you just saved me 3 hours. Have this.
Yeah.
But if you just stand around the corner and wait for me to come at you, or because you don't know what you're doing, A, you're probably going to get a barrel because you're standing around doing nothing.
Yeah.
And B, it's instantly, if that person comes up to me and says that, wow, he's got skills.
Absolutely.
Like, he not only can he knock it off and did the job, he's then had the forethought to come to me and ask for more work.
Yeah.
Positivity all the way through. So maybe look at it in terms of, what can I take off my boss's plate? Or go and tell him, hey, I've nailed this task. I can do this now. What else have you got for me? Just simple things like that. And then if he gives you something else, go and smash that. Hey, I've done that. That's all done. What else you got for me? I've got 2 hours left of the day, or what am I doing for the rest of the week? Have a look in their calendar. Hey, what else you got for me? That kind of thing.
Yes.
Because as a manager or as a team leader or even a foreman, however you want to put it, if you've got a team member coming up to you demanding more work, knocking it off and teaching others, that's someone that you want to hold on to and make sure that you keep a good eye on, because they're going to be moving through that company pretty quick.
Absolutely. And because I think that, again, that very often people, we want to earn more money, we want to get recognized for this, but are we actually doing stuff over and above what is expected of us to be done?
That's right.
I think that's a big question, because it's like what I want to stay away from with anybody I'm working with is sort of this entitlement culture that becomes a nightmare to try and deal with. And it's like people believing that they're entitled to, to being promoted and all of this stuff and pay increases. And yes, that's what we want. But here's my question: are you delivering way more than what you were when you were signed up to do this? And I think if we're looking for ways to do that, I think that becomes a real almost definition of a growth mindset. If you're thinking about how can I add more value in my role, that's a beautiful place to be. And it's I think, to your point, it's highly recognized. It's like, that's good. If you're working like that, you're being proactive, you're going and asking for more work, or is there a better way that you can do something, or just being proactive with like that, I think it's a great way to get recognized for what you do. I really think so. And it's yes, we all want validation, we all want acknowledgement, but how are you going above and beyond what you did on your first day of this role? I think that's great.
That word that you use then, proactive, love that word. Proactive and reactive. And I think those are mindsets. If you think about it in terms of mindset as in growth and fixed, so reactive to me would be you're stuck in the same spot, your head down, doing the same thing every day. You haven't got time to look up. You're constantly putting out fires that are popping up, and you've got, you're overwhelmed. That leads to burnout. Think about in terms of proactive, regardless of how busy you are, you get up and you plan a little bit ahead. You think about the next person down the line, or you think what's coming next, the next task, even if it means putting in more time. like you said, that over and above what you're supposed to, have a bit of a think about the next task, the next person down the line, like I like to say, and think, what's going to make their job a bit easier?
Yeah.
How can I make that easier? What can I do? Can I learn that skill? Can I do that? So having a more proactive mindset and being more proactive in your job as opposed to being reactive, I think is a very good way to be. You need a bit of both.
Absolutely.
You need yin and yang. You need a bit of both. You can't just always be sitting there planning, because you'll just be standing there staring off into the distance. So
yeah,
being completely one way or the other, I don't think is a good thing. A good mixture, especially leaders, would need a good mixture of both. So being able to stay ahead and like smooth the road out for your team, but also being able to jump in and knuckle down with them if they're struggling and they need a hand. I think those are two very good ways of putting it. I like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, Cuz, as well, it doesn't always have to be a back-breaking additional work that you're taking on. I mean, I'll give you an example. There are companies that I work with, and there's one particular client that's come to mind now where they have like a sequence where a client would go through. So the client would speak to the receptionist, then the client would speak to somebody in actually selling the product, and then that person would then, once they got onto selling the product, they would then go into the finance department, and then they would go on to the retaining department and stuff like that. So effectively, a client journey could be, you could go through three or four people to get to where you want to go, to get the outcome you were after, from the receptionist to the person who's actually going to manage your account. You know what we instituted with this one company was a way of building more value into the next relationship with every single step. So a receptionist picks up the phone and the client wants to speak to ABC person, and the receptionist goes, okay, fantastic, yes, let me put you on to so-and-so. They've got 25 years worth of experience in this industry and can absolutely help you with that. It's like, wow, much rather than please hold, or two, it's like fantastic. And just putting a little bit more context, but just a little bit more sugar onto the relationship. And it might sound like, it might sound something like something small, but it's something that's genuine. And I think it adds a little bit more value. You're putting your colleague into a better light as well, which means that hopefully the client's going to feel more comfortable with your colleague. You've had a little bit of a warm introduction. You've heard some good things about them. You can't go wrong, sowing good seeds. If you sow good seeds, you're going to get better results moving forward. And that is a beautiful way of just, being a little bit more proactive, a little bit more positive in what we do, thinking a little bit more outside the box. You don't always have to run back to the boss and say, what else can I take on? That's a bonus. That's great. But just small little things like that to cast your colleagues into real better lights then.
That's right. Couldn't agree more. I know of companies, and I've had to deal with companies where I found out afterwards that it's the opposite of what you just did. It's actually they make different departments fight with each other to make the client experience harder and longer.
Yeah.
I'm talking insurance companies here, so that if it's harder and longer, you're just done with this. See you later. So painful experience. So doing the exact opposite of that, I can really see the benefits of that. That's something I can really get on board with.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a nice, simple way of doing it. And it hit so many wins, because it was like, and you think about client journeys, how the client actually engages with you, and you can add more value on every single step. And with so many businesses now looking to find ways they can add more value without having to discount price in a harder market, it's such a beautiful way of doing it. It really is customer service, sales, retention, whatever it is. It's such a, and you say good things about your colleagues, and that only adds more value to the relationship between you and them. You get people into that positive upward spiral. The client loves it because you can tell when there's a good energy between people as well that you're working with, and it's that positive energy, positive vibe, which I think is awesome. And it's not backbreaking to say, oh yeah, let me put you through to Cuz. He's got 15 years in the industry. What he doesn't know about what we're talking about is just not worth knowing anymore. So there we go. It's like, fantastic, thank you, bang. It's I've just bigged you up to somebody else, which means you don't have to big note yourself, and there's already credibility there.
That's right. Smooth the journey out, smooth the road out, help that next person down the line, and it will take you a long way. So what else? What about some time management skills, Paulie? What about if you've got good time management skills? We've talked about this briefly in the past on a couple of different topics where, and I've come to the realization that I think you need good time management skills, personal time management skills, and professional time management skills, so that you turn up consistently. We've talked about the benefits of turning up consistently or being consistent when, at your workplace, because that's something you can trust. It puts you in good light with the people you're working around and with and for. So being able to schedule, I guess, workload limits and personal time and time off as well, just being able to do that, how much of a part do you think that plays in working towards getting promoted?
I think it can be a hell of a lot. I think time management, again, is one of the things that logically people know how to do, especially if they've got like time priorities matrices and stuff like that. But the thing is, I think a lot of the time we get caught up in just the day-to-day activities. I think very often you can't see the wood for the trees. I do time management exercise with clients where anything that's process driven or is teachable effectively could become something that's outsourced if appropriate. But I think a lot of the time we get into the routine of just doing the same thing. It's just what we do. So at the best, I think is return on time invested. And I know where this has a massive impact. Leadership would have a big impact, but certainly in sales, I want all my clients. I'm known for saying is I want my clients closing every single deal, but I know that's not a reality. So what I would way rather have is that you get the best possible return on your time invested. And here's the other thing that might be a further conversation with your leadership and say, listen, from your point of view, dear leadership, what is going to be the biggest priority? Where can we get the best bang for our buck here, particularly with the skill sets that I bring to the table? What can I do? And here's the thing: we all want to be seen for in positive lights and what have you. But if you bring that type of question to somebody, you make them aware of it, then effectively what's going to happen is that they're going to start seeing that you actually, or discovering that you do have a growth mindset, that you are what we might call an intrapreneur, which is somebody who has sort of an entrepreneurial role in a full-time job, and those people are dynamic, they're self-motivated. And then you're not just telling people you're like that, but you're actually allowing them to see that you are self-motivated, you've got a growth mindset and all of that good stuff as well. So best return on time invested, I think most of the time, again, with that exercise to get them to get my attendees to see all of the stuff that could be teachable or process driven around it. And then, there's literally, I ask them to write out 10 things and I say, how many of these are teachable or you could put a process around it? And, it's not unusual for there to be anywhere from, maybe 3 to 7 different things. 3 to 7 things that effectively you could make a case for somebody on another wage to be able to do for you, especially if you're then in a position to take on bigger challenges,
Yep. Yeah, like that. So when you mean process driven, it's something that it's like a skill that I've already got that I can then write up a process for and make it teachable to someone else, which will free me up to do. Is that's what we're talking about?
Absolutely, 100%. And the truth of the matter is as businesses grow, they should all have a lot of those processes that run. They should be documented as well. Because if you're going to grow a business and you want to bring on more resource, more headcount, then effectively you want to have an onboarding process. So maybe the first week, maybe the first day, maybe the first half a day, whatever the work is, you're going to be teaching people how to do what you want them to do to a level where they're comfortable with it. So, being able to write this out, take somebody through the process, teach them how to do it, then, that started to build some real infrastructure for expansion of the business. Otherwise, if there's only one person who knows how to do everything, you've got a real liability there. You've got a real exposure of risk.
Yeah. No, I can see where that'd be really helpful, especially when you think of maybe not everyone is at the same point in their career as what the person who hired them expected them to be. So maybe you hire a new, I don't know, carpenter, for example, and you say to them, all right, bro, hang that door and I'll come back. and he's never hung a door before in his life.
Yeah.
And you just walk off, and he's stand there, doesn't know what to do, or worse, has a go at it, hangs the door upside down, smashes it or something.
Yeah.
So you wasted your time. So without knowing it and without giving him a set of steps that he can do, you'd get no return on that investment at all. That time invested, you'd get zero.
Yeah. Absolutely. So something that's process driven like that. I've had clients leave some of the training before, and then they go and put together a list of things that they could potentially outsource to somebody else, and then they could put together a case study with regards to why they're going to take on bigger challenges, which is going to make more money for the business. Have them taking on bigger challenges if they do have that growth mindset, and it's going to be noticed as well.
Yep. I guess that's something. Now that I just think about it, we always talk about technical people and having to learn soft skills.
Yeah.
Having to learn more soft skills. And now that I'm thinking about this, it's becoming really apparent to me that a lot of the times technical people, they do need the soft skills more, but they've also got the benefit there of being able to see the impacts of any future planning because they've done the hands-on work, so they can see the positives and the negatives quite well.
Yeah.
So the more, if you're a technically minded person, and I'll talk in terms of tradies here. So if you're on the tools tradie and you want to move up, getting some of these soft skills and these good communication skills, influence and persuading, good communication skills, it'll allow you to, and looking forward, and like Paulie said, being more proactive than reactive, it'll allow you to smooth the road out, and you'll understand that anything coming in, you'll understand precisely how that's going to make an impact to the guys on site or onto a certain part of the job, and you'll be able to influence that, whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. 100%. If you know the pitfalls and all that, you can be real proactive with it. 100%.
Yeah, cool. What else have we got to talk about? How else are we going to get promoted, Paulie?
Mate, I think
some gold, mate.
Let's start with, I think you've got to be able to get on with people. It is very, very difficult for you to get promoted, get buy-in if you're not able to get on well with people, for real. And I hear about this all the time. It's like, particularly with things like conflict resolution and dealing with difficult behaviors and stuff like that. Often I hear about these monsters that my clients work with. Although, with that being said, I think I've said this to you before, of more than 10,000 people that I've trained in 35 different countries, there's only 4 people that I would not work with again. Only 4 people. But every workshop I run, I hear stories of monsters, And the truth of the matter is, I think a lot of the time that's 2 things. I think it's firstly our perception of them. I think very often because maybe we have different ways of communicating and stuff like that. And secondly, those communication skills. So how we communicate with ourselves will keep us in the right frame of mind or the wrong frame of mind. We can often have conflict with that. But then being able to deal with different personality types I think is an absolute skill set. But here's the thing. It's very difficult to get a promotion, to get promoted, if you're in conflict with everybody. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm talking about conflict with everybody. That's quite an extreme situation. But I know clients. I know people very well. Clients of mine who absolutely love them to bits. But I know, and because they've consulted me with on this, and they've been looking at certain people who would be good to promote in a particular role. And there have been, and this is not just with 1 or 2 clients, but there's been a fair few clients had this conversation, and they're talking about people, and I've observed some of these people working before, and the amount of conflict that they have with other people. I said, listen, if you promote this person, they may be a good performer right now, but they're conflicting with everybody, and your entire morale is going to get destroyed if you've got this person now in a senior position. It's like, I would even go as far as to say, if somebody's really good at their job, so that somebody's a world-class salesperson, you want to promote them to sales leader, but they got their personality and the way that they interact with other people stinks, you are going to do more damage than you're going to do good. Yeah. Let that person go out and sell. If you want to increase their commission, do that. But do not fall into the trap. We see great results on the scoreboard, but then they are not able to go out and actually lead and inspire a team. And it's a natural trap I see people falling into. I know you've referenced it many times.
Yeah.
But if you can't get on well with other people, especially in a promotion, and often promotions can be to a particular leadership position, it's going to be a rough go. It really, really is. So I would say promoting people, particularly to a leadership role, who can get on well with people. And when I say can be, they're respected by other people. They're not just highly agreeable, but they can have those difficult conversations as well. So I think that's the first thing. And a lot of that time, if we have conflict with a lot of other people, it's how can we change? Because we're not going to be able to change them like that. Sometimes you can change other people's behaviors when you get your own in check. And as somebody who's had a lot of conflict with a lot of people before, when I changed, I had a lot less conflict. Okay. It's been 18 years of change, I'll tell you that much. But there we go. Because otherwise, and it becomes so taxing. If you're just working with people during conflict with the whole time, you take that stuff home with you, and it's rough, and it's, you don't switch it off at 5 p.m. You take it home with you, and it's not good.
I don't have the time for it anymore. Yeah, I just don't have the time for conflict anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a necessary part of what we do, but I'll try and minimize it, diffuse it. I just don't have the time for it or the energy for it. It just soaks up too much of our time. It's just pointless.
And I completely agree. But the biggest breakthrough for me was when I realized that both parties, if there's two parties that are clashing, both parties pay a price for it. Both people.
Yeah,
and
because other people are watching as well.
One of the biggest breakthroughs I had was getting other people to discover that having conflict was costing them. It was absolutely costing them. And the crazy thing is like maybe in the heat of the moment, you don't deal with it like bang bang. You don't deal with it copping a spray, to use a good term. But going back in when somebody's open to it's like, and then being able to communicate. It's like, listen, neither of us gets paid enough money to have to deal with this. So I don't want conflict with you. I'm sure you don't want conflict with me. And it's not sort of in any threatening way, but it's that this is a job. It's a job, and I want to get on well with you, and I want you to get on well with me. Not that we are going to be on each other's Christmas card list, but at least we don't want to be paying that price to come to work, because it only goes one way, and that's not a good way. And I think being able to really communicate that, learning how to communicate that, was such a big thing, because people's defenses come down. They really do, and 75-80% of the time there's an apology straight there. And then, I've had to apologize for certain things as well, which is, fair enough. But it's being able to get other people to realize as well. And you've got to realize this yourself. And as soon as you start to realize this, your ego gets a whole lot quieter, because like, I'm going to say this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the next thing. It's like, then your ego is flaring up, and then you can hear those bagpipes in the background, what I'm saying? The Viking horns or what have you. But effectively, it's when both parties realize that conflict costs you both. That can be reputation. It can be stress.
Yes.
It can be that people start playing political games. I'm talking about like underhanded Machiavellian type of approaches, if they're aware of that, or it's just uncomfortable to work in, and it's a shitty situation to be in. It really is, and I don't think I've been in a role where I've been paid enough money to take on interpersonal conflict. I have conflict with people like competitors all the time, no problems. Frontline selling, we all know the agreement. It's you versus me, and we're going to go after it. And that's part of the rules of engagement. It's what we do. And, maybe in the future we might work together if we start working with the same business or what have you. But it's all, that's the lay of the land. It's the competitiveness, and we'll go at each other there. But if you're on my team, I don't need to be boxing with you. I really don't. I don't need to be having issues like that,
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just,
I think, firstly, realizing the cost to me, but secondly, then getting them to realize the cost to them as well. It's just like, it's not worth it. It really isn't. And everybody says that, but there we go.
Having and conflict as well, arguments, difficult conversations. Other people are watching.
Yes, absolutely.
Other people are watching. Everyone knows what's going on. When you got a couple of people at it, everyone else knows what's going on, because you get dragged into it whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And people are watching how you treat other people and how you speak to other people, and that goes both ways. That goes when you're treating people negatively and when you're treating them positively. Everyone else notices.
Yeah.
So be careful of that too.
Yeah, and you get a reputation. People don't like being around you, and then the aspect of trust goes, and also the gossip that goes on as well. And it's like they said this, whatever.
Yeah, gossip. Now, one other quick thing that we always talk about this is skill stacking and professional development.
Yes.
Now, this is a big one, I think, for everyone. Not only is it good for you getting promoted and looking good in the company and your own professional development and professional self-esteem, personal self-esteem as well, but also the skills you can keep for life, regardless of where you go. So I know you're big on this one. You're in the industry. Talk to us about the many benefits of new skills, skill stacking, and personal development.
Yeah, well, do you want to mention just quickly, Cuz, with regards to exactly what you mean by skill stacking for anybody who hasn't heard the term before?
Skill stacking, that's from, it's a term that I picked up from Scott Adams, who's the mainly known as the artist from Digby, the comic.
Gilbert, isn't it? Digby Gilbert.
Oh, sorry.
Digby's somebody's dog, I think, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't do comics anymore. He talks about skill stacking in terms of he was okay at drawing. He wasn't too bad. He wasn't the world's best, but he was better than average. And then he was a not too bad comedian. He was an okay businessman, and he was all right at writing. But all of a sudden, when you start to stack all these things up that he was above average in, he's an expert in one particular area. He can use all those skills and combine them, like he stacks skills on top of each other to combine them to be something really unique, which is the concept behind it. So I guess you could think of it in terms of, I'll go back to my basics. As an apprentice, you don't know much. All of a sudden, you know how to frame a house, and then you can stack the skill of doors on top, and then roofing, and then all of a sudden you can build a house. So you've stacked all these skills on top of each other, and then you might go into a leadership role. So you start stacking other communication skills and influencing skills, things like that. So, the main thing with skill stacking is a lot of people don't realize all the skills that they have.
Absolutely.
They don't realize the value they bring to the table. They don't go and crow about it. And once you start to put it together and write it down or have a good think about it, you'll amaze yourself at the skills you've got. So that's what we talk about when we talk about skill stacking.
Really like that, Cuz. I like the way the way that you put that as well, mate. I think again we're both very biased when we talk about professional development, because that's a big part of our lives and what have you. But I think one of the first things is to make your intentions known. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily going out and bragging that I should be paid more, I should be this, that, and the next thing. I might take an approach. If I want to get promoted, I'm going to go and speak to my senior manager and say, listen, I'm not here. I'm not here just to make up the numbers. I'm somebody who wants to contribute significantly. I take my professional career very seriously, and I have a deep desire to do well in this business and within this industry as well. And I think if you say industry, it's like, okay, all right, we've got our heads around what's going on here. But I think letting your intentions be known, and secondly, maybe if you've got a particular goal that you want to work towards, it's like maybe it's a salary increase, maybe it's an actual job, a new job title that you're after, maybe it's a leadership role, but it's asking your leadership, what do I need to do to get that done? What do I need to do to get that done? So what do I need to achieve? And there was a time in my life where I was aiming for associate director in a financial institution, and I would have been the youngest associate director in that entire industry in that country at the time, in the UK. And I'd set a goal. I wanted that title, that associate directorship position, and actually saying to my leadership, what do I need to do to get that as an outcome? And they told me what I needed to do. And then I needed to make some sacrifices to get it done. It included 3 months away. So I had to leave my home where I was living and what have you, and go and be seconded out in another part of the country. But we hit the goals, we hit the targets, we did what we needed to do. That was fantastic. They didn't keep their word to me, but that's a whole other conversation. So that's when I realized I have to get things in writing. Okay, but that led to a whole host of other things. But I think going out and speaking with your leadership, asking them what they want to be able to achieve, and then reverse engineer it. It's like, if you want to achieve A, B, and C, okay, what are the skill sets I need to cultivate to be able to get that particular outcome? And I'm hoping that your management is very supportive and that they can see in investing in you. And then maybe you ask them, I'd like to go out and learn more technical aspects of critical thinking and problem solving. Could you send me on a course? And it's like, yeah. Or if they can't afford to send you on a course, and some businesses will turn around and say, we just don't have the money for that, then my approach might be, okay, that's fine. Here's what I'd like to do then. I'm going to go out and invest in 3 audiobooks of critical thinking and problem solving. And what I'm keen to do is give me 3 months. I'll go through those audiobooks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to report back. I'm going to give you all a presentation on what I've learned. And I think if you can take that type of approach, it's showing your intentions to be good in that. And I tell you this, when I was an employee, I thought that there was so many other great employees. I thought I was easy to be dismissed and it would be no issue at all. Somebody else could always take my place. We know in reality that that's true to some degree. But then when I became a business owner, I got to the other side and was training business owners and training leaders and what have you. And they're telling me how it's so difficult. You start to realize how it's so difficult to get great employees. And great employees who are open-minded, who are keen to move forward, who've always got good energy about them. You want to keep those people around you because it costs you so much to lose somebody like that.
Yeah.
So if your employer can't afford to send you on a training, which, is a reality from time to time, there's always audiobooks and, you can go and do your own online learning. And I would even say, in a situation like that, I want to go and develop a skill, and then I want to go back and present maybe on a Friday afternoon or something like that to the rest of the team, how they can utilize these skills as well. Because I'll tell you this, if you take on a skill set that you learn about, you get one level of learning. If you take in that skill set, you start to apply it in different contexts, you get a second level of learning. But when you go away and teach it, that's really when you start taking on a much deeper level of learning. So maybe a Friday afternoon, I remember there was a company I used to work with, and Friday afternoons would be a training session. So the week's over pretty much. It'd be like 2:30, 3 p.m. We'd all go to the pub afterwards at 5 p.m. But it would be 2 hours of skill set development, which was awesome. Guys looked forward to it, and it was awesome. But you really take an ownership of that skill set. And I think that seeing people who do that, they don't just say, I've got a growth mindset. They don't just say, I'm highly motivated. Go out and do things that prove what you say you're doing, because I think that's a real proclamation that you have desires to do well in the business. And I think also, here's the other thing, man. I think a lot of the time people have fears of what other people might think. And this is very real, very, very real. If you're highly driven, highly motivated, and I saw this, a lot in the UK. There's a lot of concerns in Australia as well. People being very, very aware of, they don't want to be seen like they're big noting themselves or what have you. And I've got to tell you this, it's like those people, firstly, that you're thinking about, who think you might be big noting yourself or arrogant or what have you. Firstly, they probably don't focus on you as much as they think you do. Secondly, they're probably updating their social media status or what have you. It's got nothing to do with you. But here's the other thing. Those people that you are concerned about who are going to have negative thought process, they're not going to pay your mortgage. They're not going to pay your rent, So let them think what they want to think. It's like, yeah, I know but it's that fear of being seen in a negative light. But those people, they're not going to pay your salary. They're not going to pay your rent. So why would you ever give them the power in your mind to be able to hold you back? And I battled with this for a long time as well, man. It was like, don't get above your station and stuff like that. The more I thought about it, and I realized it, and I was putting good things in my eyes, my ears, learning, reading, developing, building, applying, all of this stuff. And it was like, why should I give somebody else who won't be at my funeral? Why should I give them that power over me? It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And, people might say, well, lucky for you, you had that mentality. I promise you, I didn't start with that mentality. I promise you, it was only after so long where it's like, why do these people that are talking negatively about me, and why am I listening to them? Why am I giving them that power over my life?
Yeah. Those people are always going to be around. And if you find the beautiful part about professional development, personal development, growth mindset is that if you find yourself around those people, that kind of mindset of more skills, learning gives you options, and it gives you the options to get away from those people. You don't, if you're stuck in a toxic environment or a bad workplace that you don't like, or there's nowhere to move, don't have options, that's a tough place to be. That's a tough place to be, man. But put aside the time, audio books if you can. You got an internet connection and a phone, you've got audio books, you've got TED Talks, you've got everything on YouTube. You just start to learn these skills and give yourself options, and then you don't have to listen to those people anymore. Make it yourself. And
I think also, because there's a lot of stress that comes off your shoulders when you start focusing on the bigger picture. I remember there was when I put a timeline together with regards to me getting out of the employment role, and I remember committing to it on that day, and it was like I had 1 year. I had an exit plan of 1 year, and as soon as I made that agreement with myself, and I put all the timelines together with regards to what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, all of the bullshit pressure just came off my shoulders. It was crazy. I remember the day. I remember where I was, and I didn't have to worry about what other people were thinking. It was just like, although I still got a year on here, I don't care anymore. I really don't. I mean, I'll do my job to the best I can, but that pressure of just what this person was saying, what this person did, what this, that, and I don't care. And it's the next step for me. It's the next step. So
and the crazy part is not only do you get that side of things, but once you start setting those kind of deadlines with that kind of commitment that you just spoke of, the amount of time you can find to do it is crazy.
Ain't that the truth?
It is absolutely crazy. When you set yourself a goal and you proper sit there and think, that's me, I'm going to do it. What do I have to do to achieve that? I want this. And you write out the timelines, like you say, this is what I want, this is what I need to do. I reverse engineer it and put dates on it.
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of time you can find.
Absolutely.
It's just all of a sudden it just appears, and you become just nearly single-minded on that focus, on that goal, and you do good things. So
I think it's because your priorities change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as human beings, we don't get around to our to-do lists. We get around to our priorities, what we need to do today. What's the most important thing to do?
That's right. I mean, your calendar and what you do and your priorities are a reflection of what you enjoy doing. You very rarely see a calendar full of, just work, unless you love work, unless you're one of those like Alex Hormozy guys who just does work. But you have a good look at someone's calendar, you see what their priorities are.
Yeah.
See what they're scheduling in is what they really like to do. So that's how you have to think about that in terms of, if I really want this and I really want to go after this and I really want to get myself a promotion, or I really want to get myself a new skill, you'll find the time.
Absolutely. 100%.
It'll reflect. That's a pretty good start, you think, Paulie? That's a pretty good base. There's some pretty good strategies there for people to start to think and take on and start to process in terms of looking to get yourself promoted.
Yeah.
Some really good ones there. I really like the proactive versus reactive one, that and thinking about the next person down the line, those that you're working with as well. I really like that aspect of things, and that's kind of what I've always done. So that to me, I think works really well. Once again, appreciate your time. It's day off today, Melbourne Cup Day.
Melbourne Cup Day, yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on the horse that I picked last year to finish.
Yeah, still waiting to finish, yeah? You got
zero idea about horse. Don't come to me for horse tips, mate. I have no idea. We always seem to do this on our days off. It's always
well, I think we're both absolutely hammered after a day of work, be it in the classroom or on the sites, huh?
Yeah, I get to the point some days where I can't even think at the end of the day. I'm exhausted.
Absolutely, 100%. But it's a good feeling as well, Kaz, because I think certainly from my point of view is, and I think about it with the clients, it's like, I want to leave it all here. I tell myself the story that every single person here has got some problem that keeps them up at night that I can effectively help them with. And if I don't come back exhausted, then I've cheated them in some way, shape, or form, and I can't do that. I want to leave it all there, you know?
It's amazing what you do, and I'm starting to see that the mental side of things now that I'm moving into the office and taking on a lot more responsibilities, especially the last week or so. But the difference is I feel I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but I feel really good about it. I'm exhausted for a reason. I'm learning and I'm out there helping people and doing my best and trying to put things together. I'm not just exhausted because I'm bored or I'm exhausted and it feels really good.
That's it. There's no better feeling than lying on that field of battle, totally and utterly exhausted but victorious. Yeah. For real. Great stuff.
So I hope we're helping. Appreciate everyone's listening and the feedback we get. It really keeps us going. So we're going to push hard till Christmas.
Absolutely.
And then we'll see how we go. I've got a couple of special ones coming up for you in the next couple of weeks.
We do.
So keep your eyes out for that. As always, any questions, any queries, anything further, any inquiries, just get a hold of Paulie here. Probably on LinkedIn's the best bet. He's not a hard man to find. And we will see you all next week. Paulie, thank you very much for your time.
Guys, thank you, my man. Really appreciate it. Take care, folks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you later.